so let's call the meeting to order for the Sheridan School District first budget meeting for 2026-2027. All right, everyone stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, welcome everyone. Did everyone have a chance to grab a budget binder before sitting down? Looks like it. He's in an agenda. All right, so we're going to start with taking roll. Jen? Brandon? Here.
Taylor Walker.
Here.
Phil Birch.
Here.
Bill Watkins. Selena Baggy.
Here.
Ruby Arias.
Here.
Jeremy Richardson.
Here.
Design Nichols.
All right, so before we're going to go a little bit out of order here. We have position 4 open, and Paula has applied for that. And as a board, we need to vote to accept that application. So is there a motion to accept the application for position 4 for Paula Branson?
I will move to accept Paul Branson as position 4 applicant.
Yes. Is there a second? So I can go over here. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a vote for that. Jen?
Selena.
Yep.
Ruby.
Yep.
Jeremy.
Aye.
Right, motion passes. Welcome aboard again, Paula. Thank you. All right, so now we have our position 4 there. We still have a vacant position 2 is still vacant. So if you know anyone who would be willing to serve, then let's spread the word. Next up, we have to elect a chairperson and a vice chairperson. So the board is open for nominations for both of those. I'm not it.
You're not it. Sure, I am.
She's willing.
All right. I nominate Gwen. Somebody nominate Gwen?
Any other nominations for chairperson? No? All right. Since she accepted, we'll move it in and go ahead and vote, which we actually don't have to vote because you're the only one and there's no objection. So technically you win it right away.
Lucky you.
We still need a nomination for a vice chairperson. That's going to cover when she can't make it to a meeting or anything like that. Most of the time, you don't really do a whole lot as a vice chairperson.
Tell me when you
Yeah,
do.
Gail would be an excellent nominate Gail.
Yeah.
All right, is there any other nominations? All right, Gail accepted. Any discussion about it? None? Okay, we also don't need to vote on that because he's the only nominee on my list. Good job, you two. And now I hand it all over to you guys.
Hey. Does somebody read the budget message out loud, or do we just read that for ourselves?
Yes, this is a tradition of some sorts.
That's why Dory got her glasses.
That's why I went and got my glasses, and somebody put this on really small font.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. There's a lot to say in this. Okay. Sheridan School District 2026-27 budget message. As we reflect on the 25-26 school year, we are proud of the progress we made toward our strategic priorities. Our focus remains clear, ensuring every Sheridan student has access to the opportunities, supports, and learning environment needed to succeed. This year, we took meaningful steps to remove barriers to learning. Through the work of our care team, we addressed a long-standing gap in access to vision services. As a result, 40 students who had failed screenings for 2 consecutive years will now receive the support they need to fully engage in their learning. This effort reflects our commitment to support the whole child. We also continued our partnership with Studer Education, strengthening our systems for continuous improvement. The district established clear, public-facing annual improvement goals along their strategic plan, while each school developed aligned goals and measures for the progress to guide their work. Together, these efforts promote clarity, alignment, and shared responsibility for student outcomes. The passage of the district's $6 million bond measure, along with a matching $6 million Austin grant and a $500,000 Cox grant, represents a significant investment in our schools. We are deeply grateful to our community for this support. These funds will address critical facility needs, including roof repair, lighting upgrades, and safety enhancements, along with targeted improvements to learning spaces. Major projects include a secure entrance at Sheridan High School and renovation of the FCS old gym, with construction scheduled during summer of 26 and summer of 27. As we look ahead to the 26-27 school year, we must also address significant financial challenges, The district is facing a projected $400,000 deficit due to declining enrollment and rising costs, including utilities, transportation, insurance, and PERS obligation. These are structural challenges that require thoughtful and proactive decisions. In response, we have already reduced 5 teaching positions through attrition and reduction in force. Additional steps will be necessary. The proposed budget reflects reductions to district office, staffing, and external contracts, and results in $600,000 ending fund balance, well below our $1 million goal. Moving forward, we will continue to evaluate all areas of the budget, including staffing, contracts, and programs, while working through collective bargaining and prioritizing the preservation of classroom instruction whenever possible. It is also important to recognize that several factors remain uncertain, including final enrollment, insurance rates, bargaining outcomes, and the ending fund balance for the current year. As with any budget, adjustments may be required as conditions change. Additionally, bond and grant funds are restricted and cannot be used to address general fund shortfalls. Even as we navigate these financial constraints, we remain committed to improving student behavior and academic outcomes. Strengthening engagement, support systems, and learning conditions will continue to be a priority across our schools. Sheridan School District remains grounded in our core values, prioritizing student growth and maintaining strong partnerships with families and the community. Our decisions are guided by our mission. Each student will be engaged today, inspired for the future, and prepared for the challenges ahead, and accountable for their learning. Thank you for your continued partnership and support of Sheridan Schools as we work together to serve our students and the community. Respectfully submitted.
All right.
Okay.
Karen, did you have a budget with us? Well, Dory's, I think, pretty much said it all. Our state school funding is going to be about $300,000 less than what we got last year. So that right there is a deficit, and all of our costs are running. So that's what we're working to close the gap. I went through and I kind of like cut things like some supply line items and curriculum line items and stuff like that. I mean, we still need that stuff so our students have what they need to function in the classroom. But basically, this is what we got. The thing we need to remember when we're looking at this is that the general fund is the major portion of our funding. Right now, salaries and benefits are 33% of the total budget, and they are 27% of the general fund budget. So right off the top, almost 30% is for salaries and benefits. The other big part of our general fund budget is the amount that we pay SHOPA. So it's basically the flow through funding. And that's like 26% of the general fund budget. So that's a big chunk of it as well.
This turnout, does everyone know about the church?
Oh.
Payment? No. Okay.
Yeah.
We have a charter school. And as their enrollment grows, there is a formula. So Karen cuts them a check, and that's how they make their payroll. So there's this ebb and flow with the funding that we get. But we have an obligation to SHAPA with that formula, with their enrollment. So that is also a piece of the pie. And then do you want to walk through these handouts? I think
Yeah,
they're
I just,
cool.
one thing. There are a couple of handouts that hopefully will help you understand as I go along, rather off like acronyms and stuff. There's one that's the account number breakdown. And that's the thing is that OD has restructured all of our account numbers. And so next year, the budget's gonna look different anyway, because we have to change the way everything is in the financial system. So I don't know what it's gonna look like. I really haven't had a chance to look at the new account code structure. So that's kind of the other process I had behind, kind of making the budget smaller, because I actually can move all different anyways. So it will be a challenge. And then the other one is just glossary of terms, just some of the ones that I stood out, like the LSP and the SP.
I think also years ago, the business manager talked to me when I was learning budget code. And Karen, correct me if I'm wrong, there's an order and it was referred to as the address. It's a specific address code that you can track how you are spending it. And like, for example, a cost center. So if we're talking staffing at FCS, it's going to be the general fund number, the cost center for FCS. Not when we know the difference between what is going to FCS staffing and what might be going to district office staffing. That makes sense. That's how that code works. It's an address to track it down. The state's going to make it a little bit more complicated down the road.
Yes.
So hang on.
This format is the new one that they're switching to.
No, that's the
That's
one.
correct.
Yes. And the next one's going to have a couple more dots.
Just one.
Dots. No. So it's in
I think they have the idea that it's increasing transparency.
accountability and transparency. And they're trying to, like, more, to make it so that all of the districts are coding their grants the same way. And, I mean, which makes sense, but they're also adding things in there that I think are gonna be like very specific, like, this supply is for high school art class. And it's gonna look, maybe not in food, so that might get a bit rough. But I'm hoping that some stuff will help to, everybody's got their grants. We'll see. The other major part of it is that we have to wait until our software provider makes all the changes. Because I can't do anything with it until I can enter it in our software. So I don't know how far along it's going to be either, but everybody's been working with the state to make sure we can all hopefully get back. Let's see.
Proposed budget summary. That's a confusing chart.
Oh,
You know what you're looking
I know,
at.
I was trying to look at it. Come on.
I have to walk over to her office and say, okay, explain this to me.
Okay. The proposed budget summary just shows our, what did you say? Missy, was it you that said
For a bucket budget.
yes, a bucket budget. And so these are our big bucket budgets. And so the general fund is the one that basically we do with it as we please. The grants and special revenue funds are the ones that are restricted, and this is where we put our grant funds in. Sometimes like when we got the bait settlement goes into the special revenue because it can only be used for certain things, food services in here. Then the debt service funds are the ones when we get our tax revenue in. part of it goes in there so we can pay off our bonds. And, it's been, now that I'm like getting more comfortable with all of these, I think there's, like, sometimes people don't pay their taxes until late. And so we might get like some really late tax payments that don't really need to fund our current debt service. And so I'm asking our auditor, what do we do with those funds? Because we don't really need them to pay off the debt that they've already paid off. And so I'm gonna see if maybe we can move those into like a general fund and hopefully offset our negative income balance. The capital project funds, these are also called, they're like reserve funds. And these, you know, we can transfer money in there if we've got a certain project going on. Right now, this obviously has all of our bond project stuff in it. And then the unemployment fund is also another like fund that's set up for the district to use to like pay off. If we run it, if we need like to cover unemployment costs or cover some first costs or whatever, we can move money from the 600 fund into the 100 fund if we need to. And so that's kind of our savings account, so that if we take a big unemployment hit or something, we can pay it out of there. And so the big thing about the budget is that your resources have to match your requirements. And so we, this year, well, in 26-27, we're going to be starting off with a smaller beginning fund balance because our year ending 25-26, our ending fund balance for this year is much less. So that's another part of the deficit we're trying to make up. And so I don't budget with a lower ending fund balance at the end of 26-27. But hopefully that's the worst case scenario. And that's the other, I'm hoping that when we do some of our bond work, that we won't have to spend quite so much money on upkeep of our structural, infrastructure type things. Or they're all brand new now because we replaced all of parts of them.
So one thing in the requirements that I noticed was using kind of explained it. You see fund modifications, you see contingency, and you see ending fund balance. All of that actually is what we would consider to be our ending fund balance. So that's where we're getting the 600,000 of where we're at. Any questions?
Yes.
On the general fund, under requirements, you see 100,000, 200,000, 400,000.
Yes.
That all makes up the ending fund balance.
That fund modification.
Fund modification.
Don't like what? It's just the contingency and the,
Oh, that's the 600,000, sorry.
yes.
Karen, is the contingency actually the contingency fund, or are you just setting it aside as contingency?
It's actually contingency, we can't spend, I mean, if we get down, there's only, $200,001 that's in our checking account, we would have to move money out of that. So it's
Okay, but
actually like,
It's not like the special or contingency thing where you can only do 10% at a time.
I don't,
Okay, hopefully
I've
not.
never had to use it.
Okay.
So, can I ask a question?
Yes.
So the proposed budget's 33,900,000, right? We mentioned a $300,000 forward, we're receiving 300,000 less than last year. Do we need to subtract anything?
This is our best case scenario plan. And everything in the budget went exactly how it's supposed to, this is where we would end up. But we all know that never happens, so this is our plan.
Well, and Karen and I had a conversation about what to present to the budget committee, and I felt like we should just give the true picture, even though we're going into negotiations with both groups. We don't know our insurance rates, and I tried to articulate that in the budget message, but there's a lot right now that we just don't know. So this is a plan.
And that's the hard part, you know, we have new negotiations, we don't get our insurance rates from like OED until later in May. So we don't even know how to, you know, incorporate that, so it's basically, I flatline pretty much everything, just, see what happens.
So there's a lot of unknowns that are, I feel like I ask this every year, and I don't know the answer. We can't move this whole process later when we have the solid info.
No, unfortunately not. We have to present a budget to the board in June, because the new fiscal year starts July 1. It's a plan.
No, I presented in June, we can have.
And Karen often says, I don't know if you said it yesterday, this is a living document, and I think that really resonates, at least it has for me, like, sort of, yes, it's very fluid, it has to be, just because there's so many moving parts.
Yeah, and we don't know what's gonna happen with the loan. I mean, maybe we'll get like 400 kindergartners or something, and then.
That sounds horrible. Good luck.
Well, everything I see on TV, about the schools that are having,
Yes,
I mean, major cuts. Is part of it's always declining enrollment, are people not having kids anymore? I mean, they have to be educated somewhere. Is there less population, or, you know?
Well, people are homeschooling too.
Lots of charter online schools, lots of.
and not just in our district, across.
Yeah.
All online in all kinds of states now, so.
So how do the, it's gonna be, not the most important question, but how are the online schools supported? I mean, if I had my child in an online school, I would pay, I don't know.
No, they're chartered through schools like us, so they still get paid from the state and federal government, it flows through us. And then we give most of that money to the charters. We retain it, it's a small percentage, I forget, and that's because we deal with some of the overhead.
So is that what that shop?
That's shop, Sheridan All Correct Academy. That's our only charter school now. There used to be the Jasmine program.
But, you know, is there a lot in the shop?
They are up to 300, I think they're over 400.
In our area, in our school.
No, they
No,
don't.
they don't have a lot.
You can be right here, you know.
Yeah, and they have, the composite.
Yes.
Yeah, and quite a few locations now where kids actually go to, not just in Sheridan, like there's one here, but I feel like Maryland and Forest Grove here, somewhere.
So that means that we don't get that $11 an hour, that's.
Well, we do get it and then it goes to them, yeah. It's another moving target based on how they're enrolled.
Well, how do they hold accountable?
Well, that's an interesting question. They have their own boards already.
I mean, how do you know these kids are learning anything?
Well, they have to meet the same standards that other schools are meeting. They follow requirements, and we have the charter that is for 5 years, and that's renegotiated in 5 years. We just negotiated last year. That's
I
right.
don't really see
Yeah.
to the whole situation, but.
Yeah, it is a trend, and the other, I'd like to point out about the changes in our enrollment, is that, we end up having students stay that are needing special education services. So for example, the high school is now up to 22%. 22% of the high school are in special education services. And that is just another rising number. It's a trend that's going on in high schools, and, obviously in other districts, so.
But that's additional funding that we get.
Not really.
More or less, up to 11%. Up to 11%. So.
So I was gonna ask if there was still a cap on that.
There is, it was tried to be pushed to the state legislature to remove that cap and fully funded education, special education services, and it did not go through. So we are capped at 11% is all we can claim.
And they shove other things. I mean, do they, okay, I know in the past, past, like you were homeschooled, you were still allowed to participate in,
Yes, they can't.
Sports or.
Yep.
So they can do that, even though they're not really.
They can get elective credit. We've had students come over and want to be in choir, band, ag class.
But this is not funding those programs. Is it?
The general fund is funding our high school programs, as just one example, and then students from Sheridan All Prep that live locally can go over and talk to Mr. Schrader and register to take a couple of classes. Up to a half day. But that's that's what we're doing for them.
There's no flowback from that. Like, we don't get paid a percentage of that.
Unless they come over after.
Right, right. And then it would come back to us, right?
It can't be involved in two different schools.
It is different having your own charter. You know, it's just a different management that Karen, and I meet with their executive director monthly. They have this, so they have their own board. And they have to operate within the agreement of the charter.
Okay, well, thank you.
And they present to us at least once a year as a board.
Okay, state school fund, grant.
So now we've talked about this.
Sorry.
The state school fund grant thing, this is something that I did, like, I think I've gotten 11 of these for, like 25, 26, so that's how many times they calculate, or something's changed, and so that's the other part of our kind of moving target, fluidity of our budget. If you look in that little part where it says the extended ADMW, you can see how in 25, 26, our ADMW was 1291. This year for 25, 26, we were, for this year, for 25, 26, we were being held harmless for the year before. So the amount we were getting funded on is like 1,369 or something students. So you can see the difference in our number of student weights has gone from 1,369 to 1,291. So that means less money for us.
Because we're declining enrollment.
Exactly. And so then next year, the 26, 27 is now down to 12, 26.
And that's because they don't get evaluated every other year.
Yeah.
So like, kind of absorb some of that flux.
Yes.
But we're getting paid highly right now from the previous year, so that makes the hurt even worse.
Yeah.
Well said.
And if they're even more of ours go back up,
Yeah,
because then we're locked in.
yeah, they're locked into that.
Yeah, and then we'll eventually.
Eventually catch up, but it will take a longer time.
They like redo it in October, and then it's basically wait until May, and the next year. And then the other thing is, in the 26, 27 rates for ADMW, that target school rate, that's what the payment to shop is based on. That's kind of their per student rate. And this also fluctuates between versions of the state school department there. So it's just, I just have a spreadsheet, every time I do a new one of these, I just recalculate everything and see where we are.
One other thing that I'd like to point out is, in the box that's titled 26, 27 general purpose grant. You see multiplied by the teacher experience adjustment. Here it is, I'll get that, this sticks me off. And then that next line says, then multiply by $4,455.75 by the extended ADMW weighted, 1291, blah, blah, blah. And then by the funding ratio. That funding ratio is referred to, that 2.5922 that keeps going. That is referred to as the current service level. So what the state is saying in the general fund is that this is what districts need to maintain services. 2.5922, that is not enough to maintain our services. And business managers across the state have said the last 2 years, that number needs to be more like 11%. Because of the cost of transportation, food service, utilities have really gone up. And this is something that as superintendents across the state, we have pushed in advocacy for the state to change that. Because that is not the current service level. It's not gonna get it. Which is why, coupled with drop in enrollment, that you see all the districts struggling because it's simply the last 2 years not doing that. So that's just big picture.
And this year, it's, right now, it's like a 2.3 something, so even though next year will be more, it's still be less. It's just. It's not bad. And then the next page shows the enrollment, so we're talking about the weighting and stuff. So this is kind of the same. It takes a while for them to subtract out like the charter school. So that's why 26, 27 looks a lot more, and like the district part has a lot more students, it's because that's where the part get. But the 25, 26 side, you can see the difference between, you know, what the district is, and then down below is what the charter school has. And our, how many SPED students do we have? I mean, it's, how many SPED students do we have?
How many students?
170. No. We have, I don't know. We have 80, that's CSC, that's about 35, so about 111, 117.
Plus,
Shop had a lot.
yeah, so you can see how that's packed. Anyway, this is one of the other things that changes all the time. Things we can start going on. Here we go on their budget message.
We could have each principal to share a little bit. Couple positives, go, Adam.
We're here on a lovely Monday evening. Yeah, I just kind of used the same format the last 4 years. So for FCS, enrollment isn't down outside of kindergarten. It's an incoming class problem, which is good because it doesn't mean we're losing masses of kids, but it's also challenging because they're going to work their way through 9th grade while they're in going. So if you take a look, you can kind of see our enrollment right there at the top box. You'll see that kindergarten group's down at 38, which has been relative. We have an extremely high mobility rate. So literally this number probably isn't right today because I typed it last week. And I think we have 2 new students this week. We have 25, 28% mobility. But with the ebb and flow, the last year we hit a peak enrollment, I think, of like 519. Last school year when I pulled up this budget message. The year before that, we were at 479. So even with this small kindergarten group, I think my first year we were at 461, where we ebb and flow basically the same spot that we've been the 5 years, other than last year's really big peak. So as far as enrollment goes for us, we're anticipating another small kinder group because that's what everyone is saying is about to happen. We have Kinder Roundup on Friday. We'll start to piece that together, but Head Start enrollments are down, preschool enrollments are down, so we're just kind of going off what McMinnville did a study. They know their numbers are going to be low, so we're just preparing for that again. Although we don't know the exact numbers, you hope for more, but we're preparing that it'll be a 2 classroom versus a 3 classroom situation. Besides that, you kind of go through. Those of us who've been doing this for a while here, we've been kind of living the high life, I call it, because we're in a post SIA grant. We're in a time where we're able to offer more services than we used to 15 years ago when it was post-recession. So as you kind of look through some of those additional services, we do a lot for our kids that we didn't get to do a couple of decades ago. that are all extremely needed. You can see on the second page too, all the different social, emotional, behavior supports. That's just kind of what Missy and I pulled off the top of our heads. But to be honest, that's what our kids need. No one here is bored at work. No one here doesn't have some significant student need that they're addressing at all times. But yeah, there's really cool things we've had. I would say Dory kind of talked about our community care group. Although it's not completely run by a school, our Good Food Bags program is amazing. We have two mental health counselors, not two full-time, but two mental health counselors that work out in the building that are a huge resource. Really good partnerships with Ren for our new teacher mentorship programs, which comes to minimal cost to us, but they're with our schedule. We have this gift of Friday, and so we have a lot of new teacher mentorship that is making a giant difference. I think Jeremy's wife would attest to it. It is making a giant difference in the quality of instruction we're seeing out of our brand new teachers, which has been really big. So yeah, our student managers are extremely critical. Those of us who have been around for a long time before those were here, they help the boots on the ground response to a student experience crisis cycle or escalation. So they are imperative, which has been really awesome to be able to maintain them. Yeah, that's probably all.
I mean, I saw a lot of very similar things going on in high school. Elementary school, and middle school. You can see on the second page of my snapshot there about enrollment. At 10th, 11th, and 12th grade class is really where we're seeing our lowest numbers we've had for total high school enrollment since I've been here. The good news is you can see the incoming class of 8th graders. Right now there's 46 of them, and then 7th graders, there's 66 of them, so that bubble will continue to move up. So all things being equal, we should see high school enrollment increase over the next couple of years. Probably, and then stabilize when we look at the rest of those numbers. We're kind of in that roughly in those high 40s, low 50s. We just have these 3 smaller classes. I did in my board report, I think it was in December, looked at this year's senior class and the movement of where we were able to be through to see where all of those students that started out as freshmen and now they're seniors, and they have gone everywhere. There's no one rhyme or reason to it. They've gone, a small group has gone to Shoppa, not a huge group, have gone to Shoppa. Some kids have gone to other online academies, Oregon Connections, Oregon Online. There's several of these online charter schools throughout the state. Several students have moved out of state. A student leave just in September to go to Grand Island, Florida. We have a lot of students have, I think, 22 of them that started out as freshmen that would be seniors this year and just moved to other cities around the state of Oregon, from Umatilla to Pendleton, and stuff like even Washington and Yakima. So there's no rhyme or reason to it. And there's not a ton going to Oneida, because we have a lot of Oneida students that come to us who share and have a border kind of idea with them. We have Oneida residents who attend Sheridan, and we have Sheridan students that attend Oneida. So it's hard to stick your finger on one thing that's causing it. There is that one thing that we're going to see is some projections through all the data analysis we've done. And the Portland State University has an excellent population research group there. Or declining population in general throughout the United States, and that's going to continue as we go. Because people are just not having good children as we want to say. I think we're in a negative population growth right now, less than 2 children per family. So that's the new reality for us. I think it's going to be a continuing thing. One thing I do want to point out about our SIAs, funded support behavior intervention, that person is not just our behavior intervention, they actually are attacking behavior through academics. And so we started some neat work this year with the ninth grade success, tracking ninth graders and throughout the year and providing specific targeted interventions to them. Because research shows that, a lot of kids, they dig their hole initially their freshman year and spend the rest of the next 3 years trying to dig out. So we can minimize the impact of that transition to high school and being successful at that ninth grade level and see those students that have greater success for the next 3 years. And then, of course, looking at academic success, a lot of times behavior, you're not dealing with as much behavior situations. The students are focused, engaged, and all that. So that's a great way that we I believe that position is used rather than just someone who is, doling out in school suspensions or, those types of things that they're actually working with students to improve academic behavior. So, probably one of the things that I still request is since I started working here and I've worked in several high schools over my career is the access our students have to college credit. We have zero barriers. We've never turned a kid down who wanted to take a Schnecker class through expanded options, which is you see it there. It's just they're able to enroll in a Schnecker class on top of their high school load if they want to. We have a young lady who's a junior now. She's got over 30 college credits. She took this term off because she's a little worn out. She's going to take a break. But we have it's really neat. Their kids don't have to ask too hard to get access to this. We say okay, and we support them. So I think that's a really cool opportunity at this small school. And of course, continuing with their senior projects. Seniors will start their senior projects in next week, beginning in May, presenting their senior projects that they've been working on all year. And that's a graduation requirement that we're able to do as a small school. Because if we did have 100 seniors, that would be a very difficult task to accomplish. To having 100 seniors present and monitor and keep track of all the work that we're doing those projects. That's kind of one of the strengths of living in a small school. And I want to echo what Adam also said about, we have 2 first-year teachers this year that are right out of program, and they are exceptional. The quality of educators we're getting at the university system right now is way better than I ever was when I first started teaching 30 years ago. It's pretty impressive that they're able to come out. So the support we're able to give them through our relationship with the Wyoming Education Services.
A quick question. So the youth who want to do the college credit, who pays for that?
So we get money from the state for expanded options. And it's an amount that we've never had to deny anyone. So, and then the other options through, then they're discounted, like through Line of Promise, they can, I think it's $25 to take the course, and they get dual credit for that. Those are kind of neat because they partner with, the high school teacher partners with the university instructor to ensure that state required standards, so all part of they're required to meet state like language arts credits. It'll say that they writing 121. The writing 121 credit also meets the Oregon state standards for 12 for language arts. That aligns their state and dual credit.
And I was passing this.
This is current staffing, so through attrition, and through reduction in force, 5 less teaching positions are in here compared to last year's budget.
And you will also notice that, like, the high school sports, the number of coaches has been cut, like, quite a few. We didn't, like, baseball, we're doing a co-op this year, so we need, like, an assistant, and softball, I think this is a so. But those those things are like, okay, 2 mile budget, but if it turns out, like I said, we get a bunch of kids next year, we can always say, okay, yes, we do need a JV baseball coach. There's nothing like that. We probably could do that.
We have enough staff to accommodate, not very many, I mean, hardly. And there's only 32 students,
Right,
so.
right, so there's very many.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's adjustments going on here, with master schedules.
And that's part of it too. It's like if you don't have a many students, you don't actually need as much student staff
Right.
to cover that. So it's just, it's a very sad situation.
One thing, yeah.
Yes.
So, the other thing we managed to do is we get some services through through Willamette ESP. And so this year we get resolution funds from them, and that's basically we have an account with them. And so we funded, like our SLP person that we need through the ESP using our resolution funds. And last year we had to pay part of it, you know, out of our general fund. And so that amount has been taken out of budget. So if you see that, it's like there's no contracted funds for SLP there because we managed to get them all paid for through the ESP. And I think we did the same with psychology, so some things shifted into the ESP, which saving some too. I don't know what else. What do you want to do?
Well, we're looking at some things we do like city tots, right, for uniforms, we do landscaping, we do all kinds of different services, and then when we started cutting things there, we were looking at everything, trying to figure out what to do with extra money, so.
And that's what Dory was saying, we've been looking at other different contracts. Suitors, and things like
We first started with the enrollment adjustment and looking at, okay, number of students, number of our current grade teachers, we went to programs and contracts. Given the situation we're in with special education, it is really difficult to do program reductions within special education. That's where we're at right now, it's just that negotiations and looking at our contracts and other programs. Like Karen said, we adjusted sports, we have fewer students out, we don't need as many coaches.
Yeah, and we have the varsity stuff.
Yeah.
Yes. Whatever, like, in our, we have to renew our social studies thing. And so Brett, like, recalculated it using a different, whatever formula, and that curriculum went down like $25,000 because they calculated it way because our enrollment's not. So it's just things like that. And then we also got another discount on different curriculum thing.
On our
Yeah.
assessment. Yes, for our assessment.
Yeah. So I think Tim, like social studies site license or by student, Tim had to go by student, which saved us much money. Assessment, there's now state mandated you have to pick one of these 4 assessments. Well, then they gave a statewide discount. So what used to cost us $16,000 to $18,000 is going to cost us like $5,000 or $6,000. So there's a couple of random iOS tutoring grant that just kind of showed up on the door. A couple of items like that.
Those are the ones.
Questions about how routines is organized? That makes sense. I love having the road numbers, by the way.
Yes.
Thank you.
Something we talked about last year.
The far right. You see the big buckets as you go through here.
I was wondering on page 2, less restrictive programs.
That's basically the STEM programs. Yeah. We don't want things to be clear, I guess.
The naming scheme is fantastic.
Yeah, yes.
What are we doing with the talented and gifted program? Because that looks like a new thing.
We did actually create, we have coordinator 2 years ago, did not have one last year, and we have one this year. So it is a teacher, is a TAC coordinator stipend. That works through the identification process and then, working with teachers to develop TAC plans.
And that's district-wide, yeah.
Yes, that's K-12.
That's good. Been working on, and then have a nurse.
Nursing services, that is also K-12. That is a student health assistant. And then we have an Oregon Health Authority grant that pays for a part-time nurse.
Yeah, and that, under this, on page 3, that 17, about $177,000 in other objects, that's the liability insurance that we think pays, is included in that. That's a really big But I think that's gonna be, because as I see it, I'm like, that seems like a weird place to put that, but I think that's gonna be part of the cleanup when we go to the new account structure. For the sub-services, does that come later? That was another thing that was in a lot this year, but now subs are paid. Let's see, the sub costs are under the individual schools, and they're under up to 319 under purchase services, because now we basically get a bill from EduStaff for from the SBA, yes. And so that's what they are.
On page 4, there's a little increase in security. But if we're building more secure,
And that's exactly what when I put that in there, it's like, hopefully this will be one of the things that we can, cover under the law. Or, because I think this was an increase in one of our monitoring programs that we use. Yes, that's hopefully,
Do you know, like a alarm monitoring system or something?
I think so, yeah.
Does that fall under like the cops?
Oh,
Great.
Yeah. It notified me that the middle school cost center, which is 116, that was before the K-5, which is 137, but it's a bit of a shift we need to make, so. All we can sort of say,
And even though they're in one building,
yes.
it's two different, so the person, we explain this every year, if a position like Adams goes K-5 and 6A, it's split between the two.
And if I wish, I would have one cost center for just FCS, and we'd be Adam and Missy and all their stuff would be there, and then like direct, here, and K-5 would be here.
So they're too simple for us.
It's not like this.
Yes.
for the West District. So, double. Seven. 26, 7,
The whole empty,
Oh, because we have a big wave of kids going from elementary to middle without names.
Okay.
So they can restructure the staff.
So it's really, it's a shift.
Okay. And it might be that someone's putting in pressure. Well, because there's also changes like, okay, this is what we adopted, and then this is what actually ended up happening. So that's an issue as well. You know, some horrible about changing my mind, it's like, we had some professional development, and I'm like, oh, professional development should be at each of the schools. And then after I was doing that, I'm like, oh, that's not very efficient. So, I'm gonna do this. Accordingly. Like, okay, where do you want it now?
We've got a lot of law, that's district office transportation, sorry. It seems like that dropped a lot. The district office transportation from 321 down to 276. And 50 grand less in transportation fees.
I think that was due to, we used to bus a lot of students for outside placements. And then we brought all those students back in.
No, it's okay.
And then also, a lot of this proposed number is based on kind of where we are year to date. And, you know, I try to do like this whole average thing. Maybe this is how far it's gonna go for the rest of the year, and then we get like some surprise early. Fuel costs. And then in the special revenue funds, I basically called out our big grants. So like high school success and SIA. Title funding usually rotates between years, so you'll have like 24, 25 will be in this fund, and then 25, 26 will be in a different fund, and 26, 27 will be in a different fund, because we also, if we don't spend all of our title, then we get to carry it over and spend it out for next year, but we don't want to mix it up with this year's funds, so that's why title disappears and then comes back into different funds. And then the 252, the spec revitalization one, that includes our the fire training grant that we had, the truck driving grant that we had, the Greyhound's got the manufacturing grant in it. And then we also had a grant from like ODE. So those are all kind of just combined in there. Which I also think is going to be one of the things that's going to straighten the clean up.
Joe Kern, are you doing anything now?
We're finishing up the manufacturing grant. The cost grant will be basically next year, we'll be spending a lot of our cat cost grant. The firefighting one is finished.
the Spirit Mountain Community Foundation is not,
That one's
but the CTE one, the 500,000, that's when we closed.
Did you, the program?
We purchased a tire tower.
Yeah.
Now, we just received notification of $150,000 for insurance. For the community impact fund, we're looking to install a tire tower and do some site work
At the,
at Rubber Roads. Yeah, so Karen has to manage those grants separately.
I'm gonna say, and that, the 850,000 is not in here.
No, it's not, because that is insurance, yes.
yeah, that goes just for that.
Yes, yes, we keep it separate.
So fire tower is not one grand out.
We're gonna wait and see what happens. Keeping our options open.
Yeah.
We didn't realize that we were gonna be getting Well, the early learning literacy grant, there's a new one in there that's added. That was new this year, so.
So I'm gonna bring up the concern of the income balance.
Yes.
We as a board would like $1 million in there. That is usually what we did right. That's what we're supposed to do.
It's supposed to be 5% of the budget. And I'm
Yeah, I've got to run those numbers to see. When we did the audit, as you know, we were told we should have about double that to cover our bases if we had to. We're going backwards. And I was hoping at the very least we could hold steady, knowing that we're already deficient in that area. That's my biggest concern at this moment. What we can do. My worry is if we dive that far into it this year and then have to dive that far into it next year, we're gonna really be up the creek without a paddle very quickly. And we know that because we dipped into it last year. So that's me voicing my concern.
Our new fund balance in the audit last year was 1.3 million. It is selfish to get through this year.
But she said double.
I know.
See it double.
I know.
I heard it loud and clear. And I know y'all wish she hadn't said it, but she did.
And she also said that we went to an audit workshop, and then she said in the audit workshop, I usually try not to say something about any income balance in board meetings. I'm like,
Well, you did, and they heard it. So,
but
to be fair, our audit was amazing.
yes, yeah.
Yes.
But it is, it's very concerning.
Yeah. That's my number one concern.
The backup plan is that we would present to the board and then calendar with referrals. We have to, which is the last resort.
With the governor's latest change, might not be an option, correct?
It is an option, we would just have to write a plan of how we will return to our instructional hours from the 24-25 school year. Okay.
So it would be a Band-Aid.
It would be a Band-Aid.
We have Fridays and holidays, things like that, that are in there, instructional hours. Her mandate is student contact based, which is different.
So it's for load Fridays.
For a load of Fridays.
It wouldn't be taken from that. Awesome.
As far as the way I understood it and talked to us,
So do we count those hours that we have open time with the teachers on Friday?
not as instructionalists, we don't feed them.
That's good. So
Yeah.
we need to have some options there.
So there's some wiggle. We have more wiggle room than a lot of places.
And I'm trying to be the eternal optimist with, we get some farm work done and our buildings are great. Really good staff here. It's like, I don't know how to explain that to people. It's very rural, like, there's not a lot to do here, especially with children and adults. That don't have children, right, other than being along in the community, there's not a lot to do here, so, speaking personally, right, so. That's why I'm not ready to get, I want to move back to the middle, right, where you are, and, yeah. It's good. And I don't know, like, the rental market is good. Yeah, I do know they're building a new
New neighborhoods.
apartment complex.
Honestly, not over our water lines.
I hope not. Make sure we have our easement. But, and it's, like I said, it's a plan, everything is fluid, we have no way of knowing what's gonna happen. We just look for the best. So I guess, everybody take this home, I don't know, and then we have another meeting scheduled for May 11th. And we can come back and then hopefully we can do the budget again.
And then we wanted to mention it's on your agenda, there's a board work session on May 6th, and our entire budget committee is invited. Karen and I will be doing a budget one-on-one session. We're using a resource from the Oregon School Board Association, and they put out for board members and budget. And then we have some other resources that we're gonna pull in, and we're just gonna walk through the state school fund, how the reports look, why Karen got 11 reports this year, and just dive into it and answer questions as best we can. Oregon is a very, very complicated school finance system. So we'll do our best. But that's at 6 o'clock on May 6th, budget one-on-one. I might even try some refreshments. We're gonna do this.
Was tonight's meeting not mandatory for all the board?
No, it was. It was.
So that way works for everybody for 26, I mean, 11.
Yes.
Okay. Go mark your calendar, I'll double check the calendar on that, I can do some of that out. So, yeah, 11, we're good to go.
Yeah, I guess if you have any questions, you should email them to me ahead of time. If it might take more research than I can stand up about.
Can you get that percentage on the ending fund balance? Just out of curiosity. Maybe I will use my voice.
Was it in, so it was over 16 point something million?
What's 33?
If it's 5%, I mean, 10% is 1.6, so half of that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it would still be below.
So we're still looking to trim money down from the pool general fund, is that it?
There's not much we can do with this budget. This is what we got. And so we're hoping like when we go through negotiations and we do, insurance stuff. It will help ease our any financial authorities.
What, insurance is, OEB, right? What's their, do they have any kind of projection or anything going on right now?
Haven't seen anything yet.
At all compared to last year? Okay, what's the projection then in the budget for the increase?
That is still in 500.
Because it's already one of a lot. So I will say that as it sounds like insurance costs are.
That's what's there. Right now. And that's, I think they went up like maybe 3% from 25 to 24. So I don't know.
So you didn't even figure in like a 3%, you just flat rate it.
Yeah.
So that will go up most of it.
That's a negotiated dollar. This is cost goes up, doesn't pay you, yeah, negotiate that for you.
Oh, I think.
Good faith bargaining.
Oh.
So they're into good faith bargaining.
And,
We'll just show them this.
Yes.
so then we can, is it both unions or just one negotiation?
We didn't certify the whole, the whole argument, classified version for
Insurance only.
Okay, and there's not is that flat in here too then for?
Classified, I put a 3.5 COLA in there for them because that's what's involved.
Mhm.
So, everybody else is like at a 1.5. So there's some wiggle room. If we say, okay, you can get 1% or whatever, that gives us a little, ease up a little bit.
And negotiations started yet? Okay. When?
I think we have like, starting for pre-meetings.
Three meetings next We're trying to have a pre-meeting this week and start next week.
So,
We go into good faith bargaining, that's all I can say. We go into negotiations. This is where it comes to a point of building a really good trusting relationship with your employees and with your team leaders. And that's why we are presenting the reality the way it is right now.
yeah, we got their costs are going up too, so,
Right.
you know, I mean, all of us,
Yes.
personally, they're going up, so. You know, okay, good. To the right one.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you look at like our, like the district's power bills are going up, but I know the power bill, it's going up, so it's, yeah, it's just, it's,
There's ordinance raising the minimum wage.
that's right. Yes, that's actually.
This one, this makes it enough to us.
That makes perfect sense.
All right, so
Okay, it is 7:11. I call to adjourn the meeting. Everybody ready? Meeting adjourned.
Take this one.
Great job.
Yes.
Okay, so this is-